Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Don Odell's Legends. My name is Art Tipaldi. I'm the editor of Blues Music Magazine. And just for people out there who might not be subscribers to us, you can subscribe by going to our website, bluesmusicmagazine.com, or our Facebook page. But even better than that, the current issue that will be in April 2019 will be on the newsstands. We finally have distribution. We will be in Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. So if you want to try us out before you subscribe, go check us out there. And if you're already a subscriber to Blues Music Magazine, you know that in the summer of 2018, we have an edition with Tommy Castro on the cover. And one of the feature stories in that issue was with tonight's guest, Nick Schnebelen.
Yes.
Yeah, welcome, Nick.
Thank you,
I
Art.
hope you got a copy of the magazine.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Perfect, perfect.
Thank you.
Well, and again, I'm going to say to people, our viewers out there, if you are a devotee of Don Odell's Legends, you can go back on YouTube and watch the interview with Nick as a member of the Trampled Underfoot band, which we did, I want to say maybe 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, it was a few years ago.
Early in the Trampled Underfoot trajectory. So that, if you want some bio stuff on Nick, you can just go back and watch that. But you're now out solo. How long have you been solo?
I've been solo now for about 3 years or so. About 3 years. I made a live record like 2.5 years ago, probably. It's called Live in Kansas City, and it's featuring my current drummer Adam Hagerman and current bass player Cliff Moore.
Oh, neat! Very cool.
So that was my first real stamp as going on my own.
As Nick Schnebelen,
yeah. And then and since then, so we made that record and it came out with Viz Tone and it went it went really well. And then so I knew I needed to make a studio album.
Right.
So to cement that, I went back to my producer Tony Bronigal, who I did 2 of the last Trampled Underfoot records. Badlands and Wrong Side of the Blues with.
Right.
And it was great working with Tony again on this album. And it took us about 1.5 years and we made an excellent record.
Nice.
And it's called Crazy All By Myself.
Right. Working with Tony, you worked with him back with Trampled Underfoot on 2 of the albums, right?
Yes.
And now, what does Tony bring out of Nick? What as a producer, what's his importance?
It's really interesting because I always go to whatever needs the most work, and that's usually what I go to tackle first in a project. And getting to work with Tony and have such a history with him and the guys that he brings along board, Mike Finnegan, who had worked on those 2 Trampled Underfoot records with, so I had a track record with him, and I got to work with. And of course, Johnny Lee Schell was there engineering, so he was in on it too. And but what I really liked was the other the aspect that we needed to work on the most was and really nail was the songwriting. So we spent a better part of a little less than about 10 months or a year getting the songs together.
Really?
And I was working with 3 or 4 different songwriters. I mean, how I do it is I write the songs and then I don't quite finish them.
Okay.
But they're really good starts.
Right.
So, I could sit there and really and beat my head against the wall and try to finish these songs.
Yeah.
Or take them to an intelligent, excellent songwriter. And I've got different guys that work well in different songs. So, that was the songwriting. Some great songwriters, Gary Nicholson in Nashville, and Dave Duncan. I don't want to jump ahead on you. But,
no. I'm just throwing it out. I'm with you.
No, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was it. And then the recording of the album was the almost the easiest part.
Really?
Yeah. And then another, and that was cool. So and then. To pick different writers for different songs was something that was a new thing for me. Having a lot of different guest artists to appear on the record was excellent as well. It was a new venture for Tony and I.
That's right. Yeah. You say bring all these artists in. The CD's called Crazy All By Myself, but you have 1,000 people on there. You have not only the Phantom Blues Band, you've got Hutch Hutchison from Bonnie Raitt, you've got Jason Ritchie, you've got Dustin Arbuckle.
Yeah.
You've got Lionel Young.
Yes.
You've got a bunch of your friends on there. How are you able to take all of that arrangement and now work it with your band that you have tonight, which is bass, drums,
Yeah.
A bass, drums. Is there a sax player out there?
His name's Jay Davidson, and he's from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
We could talk about him now.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
fine. Yeah, Jay's great. I love. I knew him from back when I lived in Philadelphia with K-Floor.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of our larger shows with us, and he played, sax and
Right.
mainly just saxophone because we had an organ player in that band.
Okay.
But now that Jay's with me, I'm discovering what an excellent keyboard player.
So he's doing both.
He is he is an organ player,
Yeah.
piano player, and saxophone. So
Okay.
that's a new discovery for me.
What's it like then to take these songs, which have these amazing arrangements and a stable of musicians, and pare it down to 4 people?
It's very
What's
cool.
that process like?
The first process that was really cool was when the song, because my blues style is varied. It's got a lot of, it comes from a lot of different styles
Yeah,
of blues.
yeah.
And I was noticing that the album songs were pairing up. Like, we ended up with like 14 or 15 songs. So
Right.
there was like 7 sets of 2 songs.
Yeah.
So and it was really cool to watch them arrange. So
Right.
then I was picking my guest artists, in using that,
As a basis,
as a basis. And what it was I got this like British blues rock ballad.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it was great. And I was just like, Davy Knowles would sound really awesome on that.
Yes.
So they get old Davy does it.
Yeah, yeah.
And he kicked his butt.
Oh my gosh.
And actually, in a side note, we played with him last night in Sellersville.
Oh, how cool.
And he was with a band of friends,
Yeah.
Rory Gallagher.
Right, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, and he got up and played it with me.
Oh
so.
man, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, though, how do you pare down the sound from this?
With the live.
In your live set from what you have on the record?
Absolutely. Well, it's really cool because having Jay play saxophone, he also plays keys.
Okay.
And there's a lot of piano. On
the CD.
Yeah, on the CD. So that was something that, because I had the 3-piece band, we were playing it, doing it in a more pared down sense.
Right.
So now I can put that piano back in.
Nice.
But not that I don't have Dustin Arbuckle or Jason Ritchie
No,
on the
no,
road with
no,
me.
no,
But
yeah.
if I did, it'd be great.
Yeah,
but,
that's right. That's right.
But it's cool to be able to, so some of that's, especially the harp isn't there. But so the saxophone kind of fills some of that.
A little bit of the harmonica. Well,
Yeah.
Doug Deming, he toured with Dennis Grunling, and then he added Madison Slim, and when Slim left him, he added a sax. So now for the last 2 years, Doug has had the sax, and it kind of works nice.
Yeah, but you got to be careful with that because sometimes an instrument's not the right. Even though it can be played well.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't fit into that song
That's right.
appropriately.
Yeah.
It can be saved for another track.
Right. So. Now you went back and you talked about writing for 10 months. How do you put together a CD over 10 months or songs over 10 months? Is it a process of you sending some lyrics to Tony and Tony sending them out to other people, or when you write some lyrics or the music, are you thinking, Dave Duncan would be good on this? Or
I have a story. I want to share. It said, I got a hold of Gary Nicholson in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
And I was going down for the Blues Music Awards just to shake hands and say hi to everybody and just be my presence. And I found a hole in his schedule. And I drove and I slept in a rest stop.
Right.
And then I went down to Beale Street.
Yeah.
And I played a gig. Slept in the parking garage.
Really?
In my van.
Oh no.
Drove.
Not very safe, but
But drove to Gary's house.
Yeah.
Cut the track. Wrote the amazing songs. Went to this length to make sure that I got to sit in person and write with him instead of emailing back and forth. And we made 2 amazing songs.
God,
so
that's amazing. Yeah,
it's
that's
just
wonderful.
what you put into it. But then like with Dave Duncan and I work so well together. We just do it over the phone.
Okay.
We do a phone call.
Right.
Some guys that can work well with.
Yeah.
Other guys it's a little more. A little more, I don't know, it's a little more involved and like, I need to sit here like you and work and write a song together, and so different things work, different guys. Tony's a great writer too.
That's right. He's co-written a bunch on this CD.
Yeah, and he's bringing these brilliant ideas to the table too. But it's mainly helping me get organized, but working with these songwriters, I see their processes and how similar mine are. And other things that I need to learn, that I'm learning from their processes.
Exactly. So. And you're no different from others of your age group. Kenny Wayne Shepherd is going to Nashville and he's working with other songwriters. Joe Bonamassa, same thing. And I think you guys are discovering that there are some other skills that are just going to augment what you do and make it even better.
Yeah, and I hope eventually to become a great blues songwriter.
That's right.
For everybody.
Yeah, yeah. What would you say, working with these guys, especially Gary Nicholson, but also Tony and Dave, what would you say, how could you distill what they've taught you down to like one or two really important skills that you would pass along to a young songwriter?
Yeah, without naming names, I would say, one songwriter taught me how to really be analytical. It's like, he's like, your starts are great.
Right.
The first line of the song, we always kept that.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, but the first line of the last verse needs to be as strong as the first one.
Okay.
And he's like, you're coming in hot with a great idea. He's like, but then it kind of falls.
Peters out.
Yeah, he's like, you gotta build it.
Right.
So, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a good trick.
That's a cool idea.
Other guys, other songwriters, just sitting there like, I play my song. They're like, oh, okay. They sit there, they think for a second, and then they just play.
Right.
And then they just do the whole thing. Using my lyric ideas.
Yeah.
And then just play it, and that's it.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was cool too. Just executing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe he's reaching into some past songs that he's written to influence this idea of performance on the spot.
Cool, nice. Are you learning about the economy of language too?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, definitely. Syntax and just keeping things real short. I noticed too, instead of saying, it does this. You have to just say what it is that's doing that.
Sure.
And really, you got to kind of
be specific.
You have to be
details.
You have to be specific with details.
Nice, cool. With all this stuff now going into Tony, and Tony as a producer, let's get back to that quickly. Does he have an influence on the direction of the song or the style of the song, in terms of, hey Nick, that's a good idea, but why don't we try this more as a blues rock ballad? Or, does he, how much control does he have as a producer over your ideas that you come in with?
Well, he does. He of course has we have an open book on that. Whatever we want to do. But it seemed on this last record that most of my directions were pretty self-explanatory. So he could, but there were some feels that came out of performing them, that I didn't expect.
Okay.
And that was really exciting. But with Tony, it's really cool. It's really cool. I love the way the performances created these new feels.
Right.
Yeah. But he did push a few things in a few different directions. There's one that I thought was I thought it was going to be a little harder. It's a song called "Holding On."
Okay. Yeah.
But when it smoothed out, it was so much nicer.
Nice.
It was more grown up.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a sophisticated tune, so it called for it.
Do you find with these tunes now that this is not a live CD, but a studio one, do you find in the playing of them night after night that some of them have changed from their original concept?
Absolutely. There's a couple, bringing Jay Davidson to play with me.
Oh yeah.
He's a writer too, and an arranger and a composer.
Yeah.
So like we do a couple trampled underfoot songs that I did with them.
Yeah.
And we moved a few chords around.
Okay.
And changed a few things up. So it kind of updated it, and it didn't change it like maybe a fan wouldn't even hardly notice, but it just you can prove.
To see how it changes over time.
I think it's fair to say that the songs are kind of alive in that way. They will grow and they will improve if you put the time and effort on them.
Sure.
But with the album tracks, so right now we're just trying to kind of keep it to the record and not but I've been writing extra live sections for songs that aren't on the record,
right?
And things like that. So
yeah,
they're constantly evolving.
Oh, I know. Now you've got those two live albums you mentioned at the beginning, and now the studio one. What went into the production of a live album in terms of how is that different from a studio album?
Yeah, well, I enjoy doing live records because I think it's a way for the audience to really hear you, perform. And people really, they prefer to have a studio record. They need a studio release. And I think it's important. But with a live record, I've got it down pretty good, and it's a pretty cost-effective album.
Yeah.
Way to do it. You got your your engineer to record
Right.
the show, and then at that point, it is what it is, you
Yeah.
know. And I don't really ever do too many repairs on it,
Right.
or fix it. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe a little nip and tuck here just to make it presentable, and then it's just it's a good strong mix and mastering.
Right, right.
So
I know there's a lot of people who do live records and they're kind of like, well, we got to retake this song, so we'll record it again at another venue or whatever. And
Yeah.
you know, I think warts and all, you know, it'd be fun to just hear the grittiness of that live show.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
you gotta leave some of that in. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really stand behind that Live in Kansas City live record
Yeah.
because Adam and Cliff are just solid as a
That's
rock.
nice,
So
yeah, right,
it came
right.
across really well.
What's the effect of family on your songwriting? You have 2 daughters,
Absolutely,
and they're getting older.
They
and you're
are.
on the road a lot.
Yeah.
Are you finding that they're affecting your song?
Absolutely, my
Writing.
girls were. I went through a pretty rough couple years, and and I think that has trickled down into this record, even though it was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Some things that have gone on,
Right.
that have trickled down into the songwriting for this record.
Yeah.
And but I do think fondly of my children, and I do write for them a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I think you'll probably see more of that on the next record.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's always there.
Yeah, yeah. Do they like listening to Dad?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. They like playing with Dad too. They like to play with Dad. My daughter Madeline, she plays violin, and and that's just it's so funny. I mean, I never even pushed her into playing guitar or violin or anything like that, and she just went to it.
Yeah.
But like, she plays violin. I play guitars. My dad played guitars.
Yeah.
My grandfather played mandolin, and my great grandmother played guitar, and then their parents played violin over in Croatia, and so these strings is just moving through us.
Yeah, that's
more
right.
so.
The genetic. Now, you've been out of Trample Underfoot for 3 or 4 years. That was a hugely successful band around the world.
It was great.
What's the importance of that experience in your career now, as you look back in retrospect?
Well, it's really neat because I kind of didn't really tour for about a year. I mean, I was touring around the Midwest,
Yeah.
but now I'm really getting back out and seeing firsthand the experience of what we created,
Right.
and how many lives we touched, and how many people still remember and still, just give accolades, and they still love it, and it just means so much to me. It's been really cool.
Right. And in terms of the effect that you've had on fans, what about the effect on Nick and this career? What has that experience done for you musically, or
Sure. No, musically, I've been able to stand out on my own and make a lot more of the executive decisions. I mean, we as Trample Underfoot, we were three pieces,
Siblings,
three, but equal members
Right,
too at
right.
that point.
Yeah.
But now it's really cool to have that, executive control, especially over music and performing live. It's Trampled Underfoot really did help create a base for what I can do now too.
Nice.
And it's my job to live up to that standard at the best I can to keep in the game.
Yeah. As you look in the rearview mirror back on those years and those experiences with Danielle and Chris, what did each one of them give you? What did you get from watching Danielle every night?
Yeah, I've always busted my butt on my instrument. She does a really good job of it too.
Yeah.
So that it just resonates, that quality definitely. And Chris's heart and soul still resonates with me.
Yeah, nice. And vocally, I hear a different vocal on this record.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about how that has evolved?
Sure, yeah. There was some songs that we were doing that got a little grittier, and some songs that got a little sweeter, and a little more cleaner. So, I think, where my vocal was here, it's just I'm kind of expanding it on both ends.
Right.
A little more low down, a little more uptown.
Yeah. Do you feel that you are out on tour sort of reinventing the blues in some way? Or I should ask you, how is Nick Schnebelen reinventing the blues?
I hope so.
How are you doing it?
I definitely hope. Well, some of the songwriting, I'm trying to create new grooves.
Okay.
That fit in, that are blues.
Right.
Even though, they're original, but they're familiar, and And the reason for that is I want to create something that will stand the test of time, and hopefully somebody else will cover someday. You know, and not just another blues shuffle, you know, which is great, you know, but like a different way of doing it that stands out and is unique in its own. But it also, you know, celebrates the whole blues idiom.
Right.
So that's really important to me.
Yeah. And coming from Kansas City, you have a huge, rich history of blues and jazz.
Absolutely.
That I imagine you're trying to bring together in some new ways.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, the jazz in Kansas City is you know, that's where improvisation was born.
Right.
I mean, that's where it's the birthplace of improvisation.
Yeah.
So as songwriters, in music, you know, writers, we want, you know, I want that improvisation to come across too.
Yeah.
And I want it to, you know, and I want these songs to stand the test of time. Whatever I write, you know.
Sure.
I really want. Of course, you know, everybody would want that, but I really want to nail it.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about this when I was thinking about you and your guitar playing, and all the guitar players I've seen. Can you talk a little bit about the process of learning when you were a young kid? How much practice did you do? Because you have to be conversant in so many styles.
Yes, absolutely.
You just mentioned jazz, but there's, you know, there's a B.B. King, a Freddie King, and Albert Collins. You know, there's West Coast, there's Texas, there's Chicago. How do you learn all that? What's that?
You know,
as you look back.
I definitely I don't think you can say like, I'm going to learn how to play blues guitar.
No.
And then dump yourself in it and then hope 2 years later that you got it.
Right.
This is just an ongoing thing that I've been doing, you know, and it's a special interest, you know, as a guitarist. I mean, I think of all the different types of guitarist, I think blues guitarist is the coolest.
Cool, yeah.
You know.
Now, when did you start learning?
I mean, I started learning as a kid as soon as I could pick my dad's Firebird up.
Okay.
You know, and I was playing it. You know, he was trying to teach me to right hand, and I couldn't play right-handed. I could only play left-handed, so I started playing upside down.
Right.
And then he's like, you know, I'll buy you a guitar when you learn all your chords.
Yeah.
Well, 4 weeks later, I learned all my chords, and I'm like, okay, now I know my chords. When do I get my guitar? And he's like, well, now do this. And so I did, and I played upside down for a long time. You know, and then I flipped it over to study music. You know, and study, and I went to a performing arts high school.
Oh, nice.
And then at night, my after school job was playing with my dad 3 nights a week.
Right. Wow.
So, and listening, and in my truck, in my pickup truck when I was a kid, I had blues tapes.
Yeah.
You know?
And when you say listening to these tapes, are you then able to go home that afternoon after driving the truck around and replicate what you heard?
Yeah, I would sit down and work. I would sit down and work with somebody. The guys, you know, but the Howlin' Wolf stuff I can kind of hear. You know, I can hear. Hubert's great.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And I was really fortunate to meet him.
Sure.
You know, but he. You know, something like that I can just listen to and I know where it's at on the nag. But then I'll sit down and like just like the B.B. King solo and it's rewind, play, rewind, play. Or Hendrix and things like that.
Right.
Blues. You know?
Yeah. And how long does it take, you know, rewind, play, to let's say learn some of those classic riffs like a Hendrix or?
Oh man, I sat down. I remember one time I spent like 4 hours on one B.B. King solo just because I wanted to play it. I wanted him to know it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just. It's funny because it's not work.
Yeah, right.
It's not even work. It's fun. I'm enjoying myself, and I sit there, and it keeps me out of trouble.
Yeah, and I imagine, you know, with the musician's mind, everything that you've studied, whether it was BB or Jimmy or Stevie or Hubert, you can recall nightly if needed.
Yeah,
it's there. That's.
Absolutely.
That's an amazing muscle memory.
There was a thing about it though, you know, just learning blues, coming out of the dark, just learning blues it's not that easy. But I had a strong classical guitar background and classical music background and jazz. I studied both of those in high school. Okay. So you see the classical side of music and the jazz side, and then when you play blues against that, you really have you know, something to bounce the ball off of. Right.
You know. So you'd be pretty competent playing in a jazz band if need be.
Yeah, I could definitely comp chords and you know but you know I could play around on some. But the jazz that I like to play is. Some jazz that blues musicians have gotten into.
Jump and swing stuff.
Yeah, jump is definitely swing. You know, Casey swings and turnarounds, and I like to play over the turnarounds. But a couple of my favorite blues jazz songs is George Harmonica Smith, Left My Heart in San Francisco.
Okay.
And Peg of My Heart.
Really?
Which is, these old standards. But the emotion that he put into it, I want to just bring that on the guitar too. You know.
Yeah.
But we do The Chicken. There's a lot, by Pee Wee Ellis that Jock and Stories made famous. And, there's some different tunes there.
Yeah. Because I'm always amazed that, especially you guys of this certain generation, the Kenny Wayne Shepherds, Mike Welch's, they're just all over the place. Johnny Lang's, the study, that you guys have put in to learn the craft, and now you're sort of you're the model for the next younger generation, because the older guys who you listen to are not around anymore. So they can't see Hubert, the 19, 20-year-old guitar players. So they got to see you, or Mike, or
some big
Kenny.
shoes to fill.
Yeah, you're kind of.
It is big shoes to fill.
You're that mentor guy. Well,
so let's do a good job at it.
I know. Good. Well, you do a great job. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're here at Don Odell's Legends with Nick Schnebelen, his brand new CD, Crazy All By Myself. But he's crazy, but he's not all by himself.
No.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Appreciate having you, man.
This is wonderful.